Welcome, courageous souls, to a journey of profound transformation and self-discovery. In the annals of history, amidst the grandeur of ancient Rome, there existed philosophical traditions that sought not only to understand the complexities of human existence, but also to guide individuals on a path towards personal growth and fulfillment. It is from these timeless teachings that we draw inspiration as we embark on our own quest for self-reconstruction. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, it is all too easy to lose sight of ourselves amidst the chaos, to become ensnared in the trappings of societal expectations, and to forget the true essence of our being. Yet within each of us lies the potential for greatness, a spark waiting to be ignited, a wellspring of resilience and wisdom waiting to be tapped into. It is with this recognition that we gather here today, united in our desire to reclaim our inner strength, to rediscover our purpose, and to rebuild ourselves from within. Guided by the wisdom of ancient Roman philosophy, we embark on a journey of 3 chapters, each offering a unique perspective and a set of tools to aid us in our quest for self-reconstruction. In Chapter 1, we shall delve into the teachings of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us to find strength in adversity, to cultivate virtue in the face of hardship, and to practice mindfulness and self-reflection as we navigate the tumultuous waters of life. Chapter 2 will lead us down the path of Epicureanism, where we shall learn to find joy and fulfillment in the simple pleasures of life, to cultivate meaningful connections with others, and to pursue a life of mindful pleasure-seeking and contentment. Finally, in Chapter 3, we shall explore the principles of Cynicism, a philosophy that challenges us to live in accordance with nature, to reject societal norms and materialism, and to embrace virtue and authenticity in all that we do. As we embark on this journey together, let us do so with open hearts and open minds, ready to embrace the challenges that lie ahead and to emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. For the path to self-reconstruction is not an easy one, but it is a journey worth undertaking, for in the end, we shall emerge as architects of our own destiny, masters of our own fate. The first chapter of our journey towards self-reconstruction. In this chapter we shall delve into the wisdom of Stoicism, an ancient Roman philosophy that teaches us to find strength in adversity, peace in chaos, and wisdom in turmoil. So gather around, for we are about to embark on a quest to rebuild ourselves from within. Step 1: Acceptance and detachment. The first step in our journey towards self-reconstruction is acceptance. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control external events, but we can control our reactions to them. Therefore, it is essential to accept the things we cannot change and detach ourselves from outcomes beyond our control. Imagine a mighty oak tree standing tall in the midst of a storm. Despite the fierce winds and lashing rain, the tree remains rooted firmly in the ground, bending and swaying with the gusts but never breaking. Similarly, we must learn to weather the storms of life with grace and resilience, accepting the inevitability of change and embracing the challenges that come our way. Acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. Rather, it is a recognition of reality and a willingness to adapt and grow in the face of adversity. By accepting the things we cannot change, we free ourselves from the burden of unnecessary worry and suffering, allowing us to focus our energy on what truly matters. Step 2: Cultivate virtue and moral excellence. The second step in our journey is to cultivate virtue and moral excellence. According to the Stoics, true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life of virtue, guided by wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. By aligning our actions with these virtues, we can achieve inner harmony and become the best version of ourselves. Think of the great Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who strove to embody the principles of Stoicism in his daily life, leading with integrity and compassion even in the face of immense pressure and adversity. Like him, we too can aspire to greatness by cultivating virtue and moral excellence in all that we do. Virtue is not a destination but a journey requiring constant effort and practice. It is through small acts of kindness, courage, and self-discipline that we cultivate virtue in our lives and become the architects of our own character. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Step 3. Practice mindfulness and self-reflection. The third step in our journey is to practice mindfulness and self-reflection. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, it is easy to become overwhelmed by distractions and lose sight of what truly matters. However, by taking the time to quiet our minds and reflect on our thoughts and actions, we can gain clarity and insight into ourselves and our place in the world. The Stoics advocate for the practice of mindfulness as a means of achieving inner peace and tranquility. By staying present in the moment and observing our thoughts without judgment, we can cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and our emotions, enabling us to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and grace. Self-reflection is like a mirror that allows us to see ourselves more clearly, exposing our strengths and weaknesses, hopes and fears. It is through this process of introspection that we can uncover the underlying patterns and beliefs that shape our lives, empowering us to make positive changes and grow as individuals. In conclusion, my fellow travelers, let us embrace the wisdom of Stoicism as we embark on this journey of self-reconstruction. By accepting the things we cannot change, cultivating virtue and moral excellence, and practicing mindfulness and self-reflection, we can unlock our true potential and rebuild ourselves from within. So, let us march forward with courage and determination, for the path to greatness awaits those who dare to tread it. Chapter 2. Pursue Epicureanism, Cultivating Joy and Fulfillment. As we continue our journey of self-reconstruction, we now venture into the realm of Epicureanism, an ancient philosophy that extols the virtues of pleasure, tranquility, and the pursuit of a life well lived. Join me as we explore the principles of Epicureanism and learn how to cultivate joy and fulfillment in our lives. Step 1. Seek pleasure in simplicity. The first step in embracing Epicureanism is to seek pleasure in simplicity. Contrary to popular belief, Epicureanism is not about indulging in excessive hedonism or chasing after fleeting pleasures. Instead, it encourages us to find contentment and joy in the simple pleasures of life: a warm embrace, a shared meal with loved ones, or a peaceful stroll in nature. Imagine a serene garden filled with lush greenery and fragrant flowers, a sanctuary of tranquility amidst the chaos of the world. In the same way, we can create our own inner garden of pleasure by savoring life's simple joys and appreciating the beauty that surrounds us. Step 2. Cultivate friendship and connection. The second step in our journey is to cultivate friendship and connection. According to Epictetus, true happiness arises from meaningful relationships and a sense of belonging. Therefore, it is essential to nurture our connections with others and cultivate deep, authentic friendships based on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. Think of the joy that comes from sharing laughter and good conversation with dear friends, or the comfort of knowing that we are not alone in times of need. By investing time and energy into building strong and supportive relationships, we can create a network of love and support that enriches our lives and brings us lasting happiness. Step 3. Practice mindful pleasure seeking. The third step in embracing Epicureanism is to practice mindful pleasure seeking. While pleasure is indeed a central tenet of Epicureanism, it is important to pursue it in a mindful and intentional manner, avoiding excess and seeking balance in all things. Epicurus famously said, "Nothing is enough for the man to whom enough is too little." This wisdom reminds us that true pleasure arises not from the quantity of our possessions or experiences, but from the quality of our engagement with them. By practicing mindfulness and moderation, we can savor life's pleasures more fully and avoid the pitfalls of excess and indulgence. In conclusion, my fellow travelers, let us embrace the principles of Epicureanism as we continue our journey of self-reconstruction. By seeking pleasure in simplicity, cultivating friendship and connection, and practicing mindful pleasure seeking, we can cultivate joy and fulfillment in our lives. So let us savor each moment and treasure the beauty of the world around us, for happiness awaits those who embrace it with open arms. Chapter 3. Embrace Cynicism, Embracing Virtue and Authenticity. As we near the culmination of our journey of self-reconstruction, we turn now to the philosophy of cynicism, an ancient school of thought that challenges us to embrace virtue and authenticity with unwavering resolve. In this final chapter, let us explore the teachings of the Cynics and discover how we can embody their principles to lead lives of integrity and purpose. Step 1. Live in accordance with nature. The first step in embracing cynicism is to live in accordance with nature. The Cynics believed that true freedom and fulfillment could only be found by living in harmony with the natural order of the universe, free from the constraints of societal conventions and artificial desires. Imagine a wild mountain landscape, untamed and unspoiled by human hands, where the rhythms of nature dictate the course of life. In the same way, we can strive to live in alignment with the natural world, embracing simplicity, honesty, and authenticity in all that we do. Step 2. Reject conventional values and materialism. The second step in our journey is to reject conventional values and materialism. The Cynics were known for their radical rejection of societal norms and their disdain for wealth, power, and prestige. Instead, they valued inner virtue and personal integrity above all else, choosing to live lives of simplicity and frugality. In a world consumed by consumerism and the pursuit of wealth and status, it can be tempting to measure our worth by external markers of success. However, the Cynics remind us that true happiness cannot be bought or sold. It arises from living in accordance with our values and principles, free from the trappings of materialism and superficiality. Step 3. Embrace virtue and authenticity. The final step in embracing cynicism is to embrace virtue and authenticity. At its core, cynicism is a philosophy of radical honesty and self-awareness, challenging us to live with integrity and authenticity in all aspects of our lives. To embody the principles of cynicism is to embrace our true selves fully, flaws and all, and to live with courage, honesty and integrity. It is to speak truth to power, to question authority, and to stand up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. In conclusion, my fellow travelers, let us embrace the wisdom of cynicism as we complete our journey of self-reconstruction. By living in accordance with nature, rejecting conventional values and materialism, and embracing virtue and authenticity, we can lead lives of meaning and purpose, true to ourselves and our values. So, let us go forth with courage and conviction, for the world awaits those who dare to live authentically and virtuously.